right. Literally, we have AI Bellamy in the room with us.
We're going to lead with that, huh?
Oh man,
Love it.
Ay,
there
ay,
you go.
ay,
That's how.
ay. We
That's
have
how.
fun every morning.
That's how you
Aye,
fog
aye,
people
aye,
early
man.
in the morning, man.
Let's get it.
But Lucky, get started with ay, 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 ay. How do you feel today, Lucky?
Man, I feel like yeah. It's another beautiful day, a great Sunday, and we have our friend here, Albert, on, and today, I'm really excited about learning, all the new, at least ways that we're trying to help people out there, gain opportunities. So again, thank you for being here, Albert, and I feel great. Hopefully everyone can feed off that energy and learn something today.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah. Lots to learn today. So, Albert, AI Bellamy. uh, please tell us about yourself because we have lots to unpack and lots to learn from you.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we talked this story during the intro to the show, so I feel like the people watching need an explanation. For years, I went by Al. As a kid, I got teased. I got called Fat Albert, which is funny because I was about 98 pounds dripping wet. And I went by Al for most of my professional career in the Marine Corps. Those that could or did call me by my first name, that's what I went with. That's what family calls me. When I came into tech after getting out of the Marine Corps, I started running into a problem because people thought I was making a joke. And they thought Al, when they read it on LinkedIn or on a resume or whatever, they thought I was saying I was AI Bellamy. And I got tired of explaining that to people, kind of went through a little self realization process. And I said, I'm kind of okay with the name Albert. Once upon a time, I didn't like that. I was a teenager, got teased. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and reclaim that. So for clarity's sake, I go by Albert professionally. You call me Albert or Al, I'm fine either way. Y'all are friends. Yeah, appreciate y'all having me on. Where should I start with my journey? So I was 20 years in the Marine Corps, retired a few years back. I had this epiphany years before I retired that what I wanted to do on the outside was be a data analyst in some form. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't even know what it was called. I famously Googled what is data science at one point because I heard that was the thing that people that did the numbers were called. So it makes for a good joke now in a elevator pitch. But always knew I was very lucky compared to a lot of veterans because I always knew exactly sort of what I wanted to do once I was done with the Marine Corps. Didn't know necessarily what that was going to look like. I toyed around with working for Booz or a couple other contractors that worked with MARSOC. I'm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, right by Camp Lejeune. Yes, if you drank the water here in the 80s, you can get some money from scum sucking lawyers. So everybody knows Camp Lejeune now because they hear the commercials that, yeah, you can get paid. I was not here in the 80s. However, still here is not a tech hub. It is not near any tech hubs. I got to drive 3 hours to get to Raleigh. So I was faced with, well, I've got a choice between working for contractors and doing data stuff for them, which would have been great jobs, and I had those offers, or I could work with some of the people that I'd networked with and go into a non-military realm. I chose the latter. It felt like something that I needed to do. I wound up working for a marketing analytics company out of New York City for about a year and a half. Through the course of that, I worked with quite a few different business intelligence platforms, one under Salesforce, one dabbled with a little Tableau and Power BI. But the one that I really gravitated towards was Alteryx. A lot of low code, no code business intelligence stuff, get low code, no code data science, machine learning, things like that. And I just loved it. And I wound up gravitating towards all projects that required the use of Alteryx and sort of shying away from all projects that required the use of the other platforms that I didn't like so much. Along that path, I wound up getting known to Alteryx. So at the end of 2022, Alteryx decided to start up their own instructor cadre, and they asked me to come in and try out. So the rest is history. I've been working for Alteryx for the last year and a half, teaching their software and really learning more about it, learning more about the data realm and the AI enabled and kind of low code type applications, dabbling in a little bit of code, but I don't do quite so much with that. But that's where I am today. I've started a side business. That's this right here. And again, working in the data realm, I do love to help veterans. Right now, we're focusing on resumes, but there's plenty to talk about in that space as well. But really, it's data coaching. It's getting people into data analytics that have an interest in that domain.
Well, I don't want to miss the chance of pointing out the insignia there, right? It's a insignia of a major for somebody who's not in the
Yes.
military with some data in the middle. I just think that's
Yeah.
hilarious. Major data. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, a few months ago, there was this breach in Australia, and this lady who was on the TV screen, and it says major breach.
Yeah. Hopefully, we don't get
Because the rank,
associated with things like that.
but your insignia captures the major
Yeah.
rank and has a data in the middle. And when I saw that, I was like, "That's genius, right? People that
Yeah.
knows, they will know." And of course, the color matches and everything. So
Yep.
when we talk about how to help people, right? Because the
Yep.
people are the one that's going to create the process, and this process creates whatever else comes after process, be it technology, be it data, be it environment, be it learning, whatever the case is, knowledge, right? People, process, end, right? Whatever you want to put in there.
Hmm.
So you mentioned few companies, and you mentioned your career progression. At this point where you are, uh, what do you see going forward in the future, right? That the future where the size of employment that's growing, not, how do I call AI without calling it data? I guess there's no other way to say
Yeah.
it, right? If you want to do AI, you just have to do data. I'm sorry, right? And data is not something that everybody wants to do. But if you want to do AI, you have to do data. So from where you are right now, going forward into the future, what do you see the numbers? Of course, you're a data guy, so you're going to
Hmm.
probably give us some numbers. But what do you see, and why should people start thinking into the world of data, not just for career purposes, but to say, if you know data, you probably are better to do at your job, whatever that job is. So give us a little bit of that, like what do you see? What do we need to know?
I'm a big proponent, and actually, I did a speech on this recently that I need to record and put out there. I'm a big proponent in the increasing proliferation of AI platforms and data platforms down to people that are not specialists. And you see this throughout history. You see it with, like, how did the car start out? At first, but like pre-Model T, like turn of the century, what was happening with cars? They were first ruinously expensive. They were the sole purview of rich people. So you had to be rich to afford one. You had to be a hobbyist to use one. Like, there weren't any mechanics. You couldn't drive if your car broke, you couldn't drive it to the repair shop down on the corner. That wasn't a thing. Only hundreds, maybe thousands, single thousands of people had them. So you had to be the repair person. There was no internet. You couldn't, like, go and, like, I learned how to change my brake pads on YouTube. That wasn't available back in the day. You had to either get a book or just hear from, like, word of mouth. I mean, it was difficult to own a car. These were not convenient things. It was the purview of hobbyists. As time goes on, then it gets pushed down to the masses. Henry Ford comes out with the Model T. It's a whole lot cheaper. Suddenly everybody's got a car, or every family has one. Suddenly, like, you've got professional mechanics. It becomes easier and easier to own a car and more convenient. The same thing happened with the computer. Early on, y'all probably not quite as old as me, but you're old enough to remember when not everybody had a computer, or three or four, or our phones weren't computers. who had computers? Nerds, hobbyists, people that, and you couldn't take your computer somewhere to get fixed. You had to figure it out yourself. And again, there's no internet to tell you 50,000 ways to fix your computer. So it was professional hobbyists that had computers, and they weren't all that convenient. If you had one, it kind of sucked up all your time. It wasn't actually helping you that much. Over time, the computer becomes more reliable. It becomes cheaper and easier to afford. Now everybody's got a half dozen of them in their house. And if it breaks, you can either take it to a repair place or they're basically disposable at this point. You just kind of go buy a new one. That's going to happen, and that is happening with data, with AI, with all of these things. When it starts out, it's the purview of hobbyists. And when something goes wrong with it, you're the one that's got to figure out how to fix it. As time goes on, these things become more and more easy to grasp and to use for the common person. You can jump on Tableau right now. I could teach one of my kids to use Tableau in 20 minutes. You can jump on Tableau right now and you can click a single button that will do a linear regression for you like that. Imagine that even 5 or 10 years ago, to be able to say, I mean, when you had to code such things, or when you had to like calculate something by hand or with some sort of advanced software. Think about now. I mean, Power BI, I'm sure can do. I'm not a Power BI guy. I've never used it, but I'm sure you can do a linear regression with that. You can do advanced statistical things with Excel. Just click linear regression, done. Here's the equation of the line. You got to graph it, but like think about that. It's open source software that can do advanced statistical graphing presentation things. It would have been unheard of 5 or 10 years ago. That's the increase. That's the proliferation. These things that were once the purview of nerds and hobbyists eventually become simple enough that the average kid can do them. The average, kind of domestic person, I was going to say housewife, but that the average person that is not a professional data person can and will use that. I'm sure you can do a regression. You can do some kind of data science stuff on your phone now. I don't, because I like my laptop, but that to me is the trend. Low code, no code. The data science things are going away from the hardcore coders, and they're going to the people with less and less and less formal training. You can get the education anywhere now, and it's going down to the lay people, just like all tech does.
Lucky, that sounds like something that we can expand on, because that's the trend that we've been seeing in our discussions.
Yeah. I mean, and that was the big push from going down to the layman, or just Joe user was the big thing, because in the past, I come like you. I did data science somewhat. I put together my first data warehouse in like 2004, and then created my own little algorithms to do one thing or another, like create disease states or a mortality algorithm, and you do things. And back in those days, it was data analysis and cubing of data. And then it came mainstream with Gen AI. Now you can hit a button and something happens to produce like a picture or an output, and AI is now more in your face. It's easier to get to now. I agree with you though that the worker, I guess the IT professionals out there, they're a little intimidated by AI for that reason, because they saw it kind of grow. I don't know, from data science to like stuff like Power BI, and those were always the SQL guys or the data guys, and it's hard for them to say, okay, now that's going to be part of what I do, working with data. But what I do love, though, without getting to, I love the way you introduce you work with data, because it's real easy to get lost in the term artificial intelligence, deep learning, what have you, and you just say I work with data, because that's exactly what we do. All it is now is just the AI term now has become extremely popular, and it becomes more mainstream. But at the end, we're doing the same thing now. We're just making it simpler for people to use, like you said, being able to click. make it to where it's like in the cloud. I've seen now where before to put together analysis or statistical analysis or just any type of analysis of data or a database, it could take months,
Yeah.
years to put together a data warehouse back in the day. Now, like you said, you can apply it, just simply just point, use this statistical regression, or we want to use this method and point to some data, and now you have outputs, and that I think is fantastic. We just have to empower the worker, the IT professionals, the guys that are scared of IT or the change, need to accept how easily things or their jobs can be made now, by seeing maybe what's the devil in the data. But one thing I want to jump into is is data. It's hard to get into that field. You were fortunate.
Mhm.
And again, I didn't say this first, so I'm jump back and say thank you for your service.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and you too as well. It was I used to say that it's the only thing I know how to do well. Now I do other things well,
yeah.
but yeah, it was something that people get into military service for a lot of reasons, and some of them are altruistic. Some people are really motivated to serve their country, and that's all they want
Mhm.
to do. Some people just want a job. We can be honest about that. That happens too.
Yeah.
Some people just, the joke hits. Like they're just not going to be good at anything else. They're not going to be the way they're wired. They're not going to be successful in another realm. Yeah, people find their way into the things that they're going to be good at and the things that make them happy. Military service was something that a lot of it I was naturally good at, and it made me very happy and gave me a purpose in life. I'm very thankful. I posted recently, just sort of a celebration post, and some people took it the wrong way. They took it as, I'm like beating my chest, like, hey, I'm awesome. Not so. Some people said I was like, the too rah rah, and I was minimizing like the dangers of military service. Not at all. I was just trying to present like, hey, the Marine Corps did amazing things for me.
Hmm.
Yes, I crushed myself for 20 plus years for the Marine Corps, and that is not lost on me. I did a lot of hard work and accomplished some great things. But the Marine Corps was a massive benefit to me. And I wanted to get out there. You got plenty of people out there complaining about, you know, the the military ruined my back, or it did this and that. And that's all of those.
Hmm.
Many of those are valid. I definitely know some people that are a little questionable on some of the things they're claiming, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but not what I said was not to minimize anybody else's sacrifice, but I wanted to celebrate the great things that the Marine Corps did for me, because I think that
Hmm.
that's not something that people hear about often enough. People know, hey, you can get money for college. Yeah, great. The effects on me personally, just my mindset and the person that I am today, I trace a lot of that, massive amounts of that, back to my military service. A lot of the rest of it is the influence of my wife, who's been amazing for me. But yeah, it just kind of wanted to celebrate that. I do love hearing thank you for your service, but I
Hmm.
I like to highlight to people, hey, you can get amazing benefits out of military service.
Yeah.
It's not just a one-way street. Not everybody gets ground to dust and then get out and has PTSD and physical problems. Like I'm I'm 10 times better than I was when I enlisted 25 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, and I don't, like you said, I don't want to take this one way or another.
Yeah.
A military, it's you're volunteering, and it's a sacrifice you're making for the country. They're not saying you're volunteering for a cakewalk. That
Yeah.
it's a change. You're going from being a man. I'm sorry, a boy your parents raised, and then you're jumping into becoming a man real quick. So
Absolutely.
regardless of what happens, a lot of things can happen one way or another. But thank you for your service, and
Yeah,
and
man.
and again, you're blessed with the fact that you were in the service, and then you get out and you get to do what you love. And fortunately, I'm in the same place where I get to do what I love every day. I
Amen.
get to work with people and do the things that really, uh, you're sharp because you love it, and only because you love it, you're sharp. You're always having to stay in tune But the thing is, it's hard for others to kind of jump into the same field. Data is a hard place to be, because I remember when I jumped into it. Okay, fortunately, I was already in an organization and they needed a guy that could do data, and I was already a database guy somewhat. So I just made that logical step, and I started kind of working with. First, it was just querying and helping organize reports, and from that it grew, to more and more and more. Others that are just jumping into this, they go to school, they learn it because they love it, and like you said, you're either a hobbyist or a nerd. But then it's hard to make that hobbyist nerd transition to where you start getting paid for it, and then people trust you and they say, you know what, you're going to be on my team.
You're
You're
gonna
in
make me
charge
money.
of this.
Yeah.
How do you? It's hard to bridge that gap, and then that's where you help. So can you just
Yep.
provide a little bit more background on how that, how you help others in that area? Because I tell you, it's not easy. I know people
Yeah,
now that are struggling with that.
absolutely. Don, we'll say this. So let me put one caveat on this before we start.
Yeah.
I want to dissuade the whole data universe of one thing. I hear so many people that are coming into the field or trying to come into the field, and they parrot the same line. They say it's a tough job market.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard that sequence of words verbatim so many times recently. It's like there's some propaganda mouthpiece out there that is feeding people this. It's a tough job market. It's a tough job
Yeah.
market. They sound like
Mm-hmm.
zombies after a while. If that's you, not you too, but people listening to this, if that's you and you're saying it's a tough job market, stop it.
Stop it.
That can
Stop it
be
right
a
now.
convenient mental excuse. And I don't mean
That's
that you're making
Yeah.
excuses. I'm saying that that is a reason
Mm-hmm.
to sit there and grind, not in a positive way, but just to repeat the same BS over and over again. Just let me click
right.
easy apply 1,000 times. And if it doesn't work, let me do it 1,000 more times. That is the wrong answer. If you are sitting there saying it's a tough job market, click, 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 you're doing it wrong right off the bat. So get that tough job market out of your mind. You, the universal you, and each individual person, you don't need a job market. You need a job. It doesn't matter if there's some sort of imbalance, and there is. There's an information imbalance, there's a job imbalance. It doesn't matter if 2 years ago there were 10,000 data analyst jobs available at any one time, and now there's 5,000. It doesn't matter. That only decreases your odds of getting through to each next step. But all you need is one job. So if there's 5,000 jobs out there, cool. That means there's one for you and 4,999 for everybody else. You're angling for one job. All you got to do is finish first one time in one race. You don't need all 5,000 of those jobs, and you certainly don't need to waste your time moaning about the fact that there's less jobs than there used to be, or that So I find that people kind of use that as their fallback, and I sit there and talk to people over and over, and I'm not even trying to get them as customers half the time. It's just, hey, what are you seeing? What's up with your job search? Oh, it's a tough job market. Stop, man, stop. Anyway,
Stop it right
so
now.
there's my mindset lesson. Like, please quit
Right.
with that. You are looking for one job. You are trying to finish first in one race, and that's all you need. Then you're hired. Then you've got experience under your belt. There's this imbalance between in knowledge and information between the job grantors, the hiring managers, the industry not executives, but industry leaders, the people
Mm-hmm.
that need workers, and the people that need work. There's a break there. And it's not just mindset, tough job market, all of that. The people that are looking for jobs, there is a huge, huge subset of them that have no clue how to get employed. There are things that they are not doing, by and large, vast majority of them not doing, that can set them apart from everybody else instead of being part of the kind of huddled masses yearning to be free. I talked about this earlier this week. I put a little handout out there on LinkedIn. A lot of people liked it. It didn't, like most of the content I put out, and this is part of the problem, it didn't hit with the people that I'm trying to help. Who did it hit with? other content creators, thought leaders, they all thought it was great. I didn't see recent college graduates, by and large, picking it up, commenting on it, downloading it, sharing it, none of that. And so that for me, there's some sort of disconnect with like, how do I actually connect with such people? How do I get them to respond to this? Lots of different things going on there. But the information disconnect is there are things you can do to set yourself apart. What are those things? The ones that I talked about, and there's plenty of things. I did 5 because I feel like that's a good bite-sized thing. Networking. I don't see new entrants to the field networking effectively. What do I mean by that? Make some friends. That's what I usually tell people. Every opportunity I've ever had, every good one, came from when I was being altruistic, when I was just trying to do something helpful for somebody, wasn't looking for any money, wasn't looking for a job. It comes from just what I call the good dude dividend. You're just trying to be a good dude or good dudette, trying to help somebody, and then suddenly they say, "Hey, I've got this job that'd be perfect for you." Really? Before you know it, you're working, you're making more money, you got an opportunity. So networking, like meeting people, it can be in person, it can be online. You hate LinkedIn, cool. Go network somewhere else. I don't care if you hate social media, but do something. You got to get out there and meet some people. Just sending people a piece of paper isn't it. Using LinkedIn. People say, "Well, I'm not a social media person. I don't really get LinkedIn. I'm not." Cool. I mean, let's extend that to other things. I'm looking at a job. The job requires Power BI. Oh, I'm not really a Power BI person. All right, cool. See you later. Right? I go get a job. I look at them and I say, "Oh, I'm not really an Excel guy." Cool, you're fired. Like, in the Marine Corps, "Oh, I'm not really a running guy." Okay, cool, you're not getting promoted. Like you can sit there all day and kind of be your own person and say, "Oh, I have a slight discomfort with this." So I have it. Stop it. If you're not availing yourself of the best tool available, like what are you even doing? And then my question is, how why should I hire you? If you say, "Oh, I'm not really comfortable with LinkedIn. I don't really like social media." All right, cool. Well, if you're a person that will, based on your own discomfort or your own kind of whatever, your own personal idiosyncrasies, are going to fail to use the best tool available to you, why would I hire you? Who wants a person that is just going to kind of pass on things because I don't know. I don't know how to do that. Well, you're getting paid to learn and figure it out. So yeah, networking, use of LinkedIn, create content, talk about your learning journey. Get out there. It shows guts. It shows an ability to communicate. All good things. The next thing, everybody's got these kind of corny paint by numbers project portfolios. Like, look at my GitHub page. I did these. I did the Titanic data set. Go find business relevant data and do a project based on that. Better yet, go find domain specific business relevant data and define yourself as one thing. People want to be all things to all people. If you go out there and you say, "Hey, I found these 5 marketing data sets. Let me show you the 5 different ways I analyze these." A marketing analytics company is going to snap you up so fast it'll make your head spin. If you go out there and you say, my fascination is with manufacturing. Here, I did these 3 projects on equipment failure times and graph them in this way and present them in this way. You'd have a job so fast. I mean, it'd be ridiculous. But what are people out there doing? They're doing projects on, Super Mario Brothers and, COVID data and the Titanic data. And, it's like, it's fun with numbers. That's what I call it. Like, don't get caught up doing fun with numbers. Do something that matters. Business relevant data. If it's domain specific and you know which domain you want to angle for, you'll be in there. Supply chain data. There's so many supply chain analyst jobs out there. It's ridiculous. If you were doing supply chain projects, you'd have one in a heartbeat. But people want to be like, I've got these 47 skills. Cool. What are you doing with them? 12 different coding languages. First of all, that's BS. You don't. But, you got 12 different coding languages on your resume. What are you doing with them? Like, how can you make money for a business with that? Right. So that's, to me, like, your project portfolio should be your proof of value. How are you going to make money for a business? Prove that with your project portfolio. Don't make pretty pictures. The fourth one I talk about is public speaking. Nobody is doing this, but nobody. You can get out there, you can and take your project portfolio, and instead of just having a README, which half the people aren't even doing that. I can't tell you the number of portfolios I go on GitHub, and their README is like one line and it's the title of the project. Like, what are you proving if you can't present your reams of code in a way that makes sense to a layperson? You're going to have to brief leadership. Not everybody's a data person. When you get hired, you've got to be able to sell your projects to somebody. If you can do that in written form, big bonus. If you can do that in spoken form, if you can get on a camera like we're doing right now and explain yourself in an effective manner, you're incredibly valuable. The day of the head down techie is going away because of AI. When we can talk about how fast that's happening, but in the future, the people that are employed are going to be the people that can communicate, preferably in multiple forms. But public speaking is huge. Go join the Toastmasters. I'm in Toastmasters. Love it. It's made me a better speaker. And then that last one, near and dear to my heart, is the resume. That is the one thing that ties everything together. Everybody's got to present it. Now, if you network effectively, your resume is not that important. The last 3 times I got hired, my resume was an afterthought. It was a piece of paper I turned into HR once I already had the job. But if you're in there and you're in the huddled masses of people trying to get a job by applying through some portal, resume is crucial. If your resume looks like chewed oatmeal, like the other 10,000 people that are applying for that same job, you ain't going to win that race. You're probably not even going to get a phone call. So those are the 5 things that I identified. It's like, I don't see anybody out there that's a recent college graduate that's doing all 5 of those things. I can name 1 or 2 people that I've ever met that were doing that stuff. And if you're doing all 5 of those, you can't possibly remain unemployed. You'll be hired in a second.
No, I'm saying resume is a tough part that people don't really spend enough time on, and if they do, they spend time on it once. And in my experience, anytime a resume is like a working, living document that anytime you go to apply for a new job, whatever that new job is, that new job description is, your resume should morph to speak to that job.
Mm-hmm.
It should never just be, I wrote it in 2003, and I'm going to write a new one in 2004.
Yeah.
That's a bad approach to resume writing or
like
maintaining
a fiscal
your resume.
year task. Yeah.
And that's something that people really need to spend more time on. So, I commend you on that, because definitely an area that if it's the same resume and over and over and over and you use it, you're not getting a response.
Yeah.
Well,
if I can, I want to just kind of rehash everything you said about 3 things, right? You talked about public speaking. Woo, that hit hard.
Sure.
Like, because you make a list of things that he said. Wait, what? Okay, public speaking really stood out, and I really want to emphasize on that. But there's 2 other things I want to get on. Is the fact that you brought up the analogy of cars. Of course, I love cars. I love all kinds of cars. But I want to hit on that. But the third piece of it is something that I think you started talking about, but I want to dig a little bit deeper before I get into the car piece of it.
Sure.
You mentioned you got layers. I think Lucky and you guys are talking about layers, but everybody will call it AI, but they will forget about machine learning. They'll forget about linear regression, kind of got me started thinking about like, okay, look, guys, you don't do data, you're not going to do AI. You want to do AI, you got to do data.
Yeah.
But that is just beginning of the conversation, right? Beginning of the conversation means if you're not comfortable with data, you can start looking at layers below it and say like, oh, I don't even want to go down that far. Because, I'm a data ETL guy. So I call myself the coal miner of data. Like I'm all the way down there. Nobody even sees me.
That's a good one.
So
I had not heard that before.
surface level on user interface and user experience wise, there's a lot of web designers out there. There's a lot of UI, UX people out there.
Mhm.
They love it, but they don't see the connection between data and what they do. Because if there was no data on the bottom, the layer 7 or layer 1, what are you going to do? How are you going to get the layer 7 to work, right? So that capability that somebody will say, oh, this is all I see and this is all I want to do is be the graphic designer, good. You still have to have some data understanding, because that's what makes you a good graphic designer. That's what makes you a good web designer. Because you can have all low code, no code, copied and pasted into one, but when you hit run, all of a sudden it runs for days, and then 30 hours later it gives you something.
Yeah.
That's because you don't understand how data works. So
Yep.
what that means is that you got data, but under that data starts another layer. And I'm going to scare some people, but hear me out, right? This is what you got to understand. Data is just a bottom of the stack, and here I am telling you there's more on the bottom of it. Ready for it? It's a scary word called statistics. Sort of goes back to the linear regression discussion we had earlier. It's statistics. And if you don't like statistics, that's okay. But you should understand somewhat about statistics, a little bit. Because, and I'll tell you how that goes back into the conversation about cars, is that under statistics is mathematics. And of course, we know people that fail English language in high school, they're going to say, yeah, math wasn't my favorite either.
Mhm.
And I say that because I'm a foreign language speaker. So, I had to learn English. English was
Yeah.
at least my favorite in high school. Math was nowhere near my radar of favorite stuff.
Yeah.
So you got statistics and math, but think about it. Going back to the car analogy, if you are not thinking of math and statistics, your brain literally works on maths and statistics. So as you can understand what happened in the past, as it was described, how the cars have progressed over time, how the cars have become exponentially something that is part of our day-to-day life. Do you think artificial intelligence will be the same way? Right? If you don't think so, I think we have a disagreement. I think AI is already such a big part of our life without even knowing it. It's just going to increase more and more. And one example I always use that, if you're using your keyboard and it's giving you auto suggestion, that's AI. You just don't call it
Mhm.
that. It's a part of labeling process where they intentionally don't call everything AI, but everything is literally built off of machine learning, and machine learning is AI. So car analogy, if you think about it, more and more people uses it, and you said low code, no code. That means if you can make it easier and accessible to people to have access to these previously things that they couldn't do themselves, which is to say, in a car world, I guess previously you weren't able to actually build your own car. You
Mhm.
had to go to a manufacturing shop floor where T models were built in 1906 by Ford, so on and so forth. But these days, you can go buy any parts you want as long as you can capture it. You can make your own car, and that has happened a lot. It's to a point that even what used to be a hobby, it has become sophisticated hobby.
Yeah.
And AI is no different. AI is happening. AI has been around for hundreds of years. It's going to be here for hundreds of years to go. But public speaking side of it, I want to tie that into low coding and no coding. Because it was a hobbyist, the nerds and the geeks that were able to actually do coding and data, and coding and data produced the what? The layer 7 UI UX experience. Low code, no code has to be spoken to everybody but your bubbles of techies and geeks,
Mhm.
correct? As in,
Yeah.
you have to be able to explain to everybody else through public speaking, guys, what it is that I'm trying to accomplish will help you this way. What I'm trying to accomplish here with data and coding will make our world this different, right? So what we're doing right now is public speaking, and we're trying to explain it all through a story. The storytelling mechanism, using data and using specifically the difficulty of data, makes everybody come to the table and make your life that much easier. First, they hire you. Second, they like you, they trust you, and they want to keep you forever, right? That's capturing value, looking at the eroded values, and providing more on top of that value, right? So you are able to do all sorts of things that you were previously thinking, like, I wouldn't be doing that myself. No, you wouldn't. You would need a team. And the way you develop that team and you become a team member, is through speaking up, saying, I'm part of this team and this is what I have to contribute and this is what I'm advocating for, and so on and so forth. I love that you brought up public speaking, because I think it smashes everything into one. If you're networking and you don't do public speaking, I'm sorry, your connection request message is not going to be that great. I'm sorry, your messaging is not going to be that great when you're trying to reach out to an HR person on LinkedIn or an email saying, hey, I want something. You have to speak in public. That's the way you write better emails. That's the way you write better notes. And that's the way you communicate better, regardless of who you're communicating with, right? Be it your children, be it your military superior. By the way, I'm an Air Force guy, so thank you for your service, because if you didn't do what you do,
Likewise.
I'll be doing it.
Yep.
So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your service, and thank you for bringing up that public speaking topic.
Yeah, we're all in sales. That's the thing
Mhm.
that, you know, when people have this natural aversion, oh, I don't want to do sales. I don't want to do, because they think of like the Fuller Brush salesman and the guy, you know, going door to door selling like Amway and Mary Kay. That's not a thing. You know, sales now is communication. It's not, by and large, it's not cold calling. The people at Ultrix doing sales, they're not there cold calling the corporate headquarters and trying to worm their way. No, they're maintaining that. Generally, they're dealing with people that are already kind of ready to buy. They have warm leads and they're just talking to them saying, let me explain what we do. Our personal sales jobs are like that. And like, I am not out there like beating the bushes trying to get people like, hey, do you want a resume? Do you want a resume? You know, let me talk you into. Now, there are so many people out there and you can reach them in so many different ways. You should only really be talking to people that are already aware that they probably need your services or something like that. So the same way, it was like if you're selling your projects or you're already talking to people that are a fairly friendly audience. So sales is easy if you can communicate. Your public speaking is generally just getting a friendly audience on your side. If you go into an interview, you're not there trying to convince them to create a job. The job's there. You're in there trying to convince them that you're the best person for it. So you've already got a friendly audience. When you go into an interview, who are you talking to? People that want a job filled with the best candidate. They're already on your side. They already want you to be the one. Why? Because they're lazy and they want to stop working. So if I've got a job that I'm hiring for and I've got 10 people lined up to interview, that first person that walks in the door, if they blow me away, everything else is canceled. The rest of you 9 can, you know, go look somewhere else. I've got the person for me. So, you know, when you go into that interview room, you've got a friendly audience and your sales job is easy. Just convince them that they don't have to interview anybody else. You're the one for the job. When you want to, if you want a connection, if you want to go connect with somebody, you're talking to somebody on LinkedIn, or you're talking to somebody you're at a networking event. The other people are there to network. You're not going up to say, you're not like in a chance meeting in an elevator with Elon Musk and trying to like sell him on your harebrained business project. No, you're at a networking event. You're on a networking platform with other people that presumably want to network. It's a warm lead. You're talking to people that are friendly to your cause. Just convince them that you're worth the connection. You know, if you're offering services, you're not generally going to be talking to people that are unfriendly to your cause. You're generally talking to people that are in that business. So it's just what you need to master through public speaking is the ability to kind of take people that are already sort of friendly to what you want to give them or what you want to provide them, and just convince them that, hey, you're the one to provide it for them. It's not, when you think of it that way, it's not that hard.
Stop it and start doing things differently.
Yeah. And a lot of it's just changing your
start
mindset.
doing things differently.
Yeah.
It's your mindset, exactly. I mean, look, I'm not going to put anybody to a level to say, if you stop it tomorrow, you're going to see the result. It's time. It's a process. But guess what else data is? it's a process, and it
Yeah.
takes time with data. So when you are so patiently working with data, learn how to be patient with yourself and learn how to be patient with the way you have a process of doing things, right?
And
I
man,
mean, don't get me wrong.
I gotta stop you real quick because that's
Yeah.
amazing. And that's another kind of soapbox topic for me is that
I love
if
it.
you
Go
are a
ahead.
great analyst, you should be analyzing, like, the number one quality for an analyst,
Yes.
any data person, is just intellectual curiosity. If you look around
That's
at the
right.
world around you, if you see a dumb graph on whatever news you choose to watch, or a newspaper or something, and you're like, man, they're really trying to, that's like borderline propaganda. Like, what the heck is that? Their graph isn't anchored at zero. It's, they're kind of showing the slope of a line that's all wonky. And if you see things like that in real life, if you look at
Yeah.
commercials on TV, like, whoa, they are really, they're preying on people that don't have a good grasp of data analytics. If you see things like that and it strikes you as odd, that is intellectual curiosity, and that is the number one trait. You should be able to look at your own process and analyze it. And that's why it drives me so crazy watching these people, when I talk to people. It's like, how's your job search going? I have this conversation almost verbatim on a daily basis. Connect with a new person. How's your job search going? Because you see the green banner up. They're looking for a job. Oh, it's going fine. Like, okay, cool. So you're getting interviews? No, not yet. How long have you been applying? 3 months. How many applications have you submitted? 1,000. So you've submitted 1,000 applications, gotten 0 hits, no calls, no interviews, but you said it's going fine. Like, what's your strategy going forward? Oh, I'm tweaking my resume. Come on, man. Like, if you try something 1,000 times, I have the only
Right.
person ever tried something 1,000 times and kept going was like Thomas Edison, but at least he knew he was getting closer. Come on, like, if you click apply 1,000 times and get nothing out of it, you
Yeah.
probably should have changed your tactics like 500 applications ago, if that.
I, I think this is literally just tapping into your mindset more and
Yeah,
more, right?
analyze
Because
your
your
process.
mind is
You're an
literally
analyst.
working. Yeah,
Analyze.
analyze your process. But what you said is important. Like, how would you answer the question of how's your job hunting going? It's going fine. Stop talking like that.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
saying,
fine is
"How
the
are you
worst
doing?
word out
I'm
there.
good."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
It's like
No,
that
you're not.
meme with the dog where the house is on fire, he's just sipping coffee. He's like, this is fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything is fine.
That's
This is fine.
what people, everybody that says my job search is going fine, like, all right, I know how this ends.
And start answering things differently because
Yeah.
you are a data person. You can start using data. Like what Al just said, I've been on the job search for 3 months. I applied 1,000 times, got 0 interview. That's the answer,
Yeah.
right? Because you're a data person. You have to use data in your storytelling mechanism, your public speaking mechanism, because public speaking is not about, and let me be careful as I say it, it's not about other people. It's about how you are able to explain yourself in 1,000 different ways.
Mhm.
And out of those 1,000 different ways of explaining yourself, only 5 ways works best, and maybe 5 is what you already need. That's what you've been craving for. You're not looking for 1,000 jobs. You're just looking for 5 jobs that you can actually do and sustain yourself as you do those jobs, right?
Yeah.
So you are looking at data, and data is all your brain is. It's a data collection mechanism, and it has a lot of statistics built into it with weights and bias, and it's literally doing mathematics to give you the output that you need. And the reason you say fine is because that's the output that you've been practicing all this time
Yeah.
with your weights and bias. Little
Well,
psychology.
that's,
I think that makes everybody kind of look at it differently. Like, wait a second, I already have this capability inside of me. I just got to practice and tap into it.
yeah. And you got to be able to, like, we know how to do decision trees. We know how to do,
I love that.
and so you sit there and you say, okay, well, so we said early on, you don't need a job market, you need one job. Cool. So how do I get one job? How many interviews do I need to go on to get one job? The statistics say it's probably somewhere between 5 and 10. So let's go, kind of high end. Let's say you need 10 interviews to get one job. Okay, let's back that off even further. What's the acceptable hit rate for applications with a competitive resume? Between 4 and 10%. So let's go kind of low end on that. Let's say 4%. how many applications do you need to submit to get 10 interviews? Okay, if you're going 4%, then that's probably what, about 250 applications? 250 applications to get 10 interviews to get one job. So when I talk to someone and they say they've applied 1,000 times and gotten 0 interviews, that information's out there. I've put it out there. I know, I can name 10 other influencers off the top of my head that put that information out there consistently. Some to the military community, some to, different niches, whatever you're in. If you're transitioning, if you're coming from being a teacher, there are influencers for that. But there are people out there putting that information out. But common sense alone should tell you, if you try something 1,000 times and it succeeds 0 times, that thing, your process is flawed. And then, the thing that I try and sort of Socratic method people, but it's tough in DM sometimes. But you try and get people to realize through just basic question and answer, like, you've applied 1,000 times. What is the one thing that has gone into each of those applications that has caused a hiring manager or a recruiter or whatever to not call you? Your resume. If you've submitted a single data point, a single entry, the only thing that hiring process sees of you is your resume, and it's failed 1,000 times in a row, you should be changing that thing. Now, the sort of easy button that everybody pushes, and it's BS, is the applicant tracking system. So bringing it back to AI, they say, oh, the ATS. I'm getting screened out by the ATS. No, you're not. The ATS is there to screen out frivolous applicants, by and large. So you figure these remote jobs that everybody wants. Now suddenly you're putting yourself in a very deep talent pool. And so instead of me putting in for a job in Jacksonville, North Carolina that might have 10 applicants, I'm putting myself in for a job in Los Angeles that might have 10,000 applicants. Now it's a whole lot harder to win that race. The ATS is there to screen out the 5,000 knuckleheads that have no business applying for that job. So if they are wildly unqualified and they're just hoping to get lucky, they're just easy applying all day, every day, because those people are out there. They're just trying to get a nibble to where they can kind of strike gold. And they're wildly unqualified. They're nothing on their resume pertains to the job. They might not even be in the right domain. But they're just applying. The ATS is to get rid of those people. Once they get past that, assuming you're applying for jobs for which you're actually qualified, at that point, you should get a 4% hit rate on your application. So if you submit 100 applications, you should get 4 screening calls at least, if not interviews. At least a handful, 1 or 2. If you get 0, your resume is the thing that's failing. Period, point blank. And I see a lot of people out there giving irresponsible advice. And some of them are people that I know and respect otherwise. But I see people out there like, hey, it's all good. You're fine. Your resume's not failing. It's just a tough job market. I see people selling that, and I don't get it. Like, if your resume is the only thing you're inputting and you're getting nothing back, your resume is the thing that's failing. Absolutely, without question. Yep. Now, you might not have the skills. You may be a dope and you're putting in for jobs that you're not qualified for, in which case, stop being dumb. Aim for something that you're actually qualified to do. But assuming the vast majority of the people, they're putting in for jobs for which they are fully qualified. And I look and they're like, I don't know what's wrong. And if I can coax their resume out of them and I take a look at it, it's like, I know what's wrong. We can work on it if you like. Some of them take it. Some of them are like, nope, I'm going to keep grinding. I'm like, best of luck.
Yeah.
I'll pray for you.
So I think you're advocating for changes of doing things the way we have been doing. And I'll tell you, I think what you said about the tough job market, it's not as slim. I think it's close to a non-existent amount of people that will say that's not actually what's happening, right? People are still employed. There's less people employed today than there weren't decades ago, right? So you have these capabilities that has shifted. It's just that people's mindset hasn't shifted. These capabilities of onboarding people into a job and having them perform this job and take good care of them by paying them for doing those jobs, those things are changing and you have to change with it, right? If you're not updating your resume, at least update your update your
Yeah.
mindset about it, right? And your approach to it. So, of course, before we get off this podcast, I want to talk about SMART AI community, right? You got SMART. S stands for specialist, A for advocates, and M for methods. Why is that important? Because the specialists that we are, we really have to learn how it is that we advocate through a method. So that way, when we do our research and training, SMART, RNT, research and training, we are able to advocate for things that matters to us. So when you said ATS, do we have to advocate for ourselves through an ATS process? Do we need to change the ATS process to work on our behalf, or do we just let the ATS process do what it does without ever advocating for anybody? So the specialist, whatever specialty you have, being HR or a recruiter or even a job seeker, SMART community is for you. If you come to our community, you should be able to understand AI and machine learning from all different perspectives. We have industrial organizational psychologists that comes to our meeting, philosophers, social scientists,
Nice.
data scientists, machine learning, AI scientists. We want to create a community where anybody and everybody can come in and listen and ask questions and get their questions answered in real time without any obligation, because it's a community, and the community that's advocating for the right sort of method for the right specialist, as in the specialist that can adopt those methods and say, from now on, I do this research and training, and this is how I understand what it is that I'm advocating for. Smart AI community, like you said, I would love to have more of engagement on how it is processed and how it is, the output that's coming out, right? As in, if ATS was to process my resume, how do I shift that to benefit me or my community, right? So say, for example, veteran community is my community. I have other communities that I'm involved in, but for the veterans, how do I advocate for ATS to change their process? So when they hire a military veteran, do they put some weight into that military word in the resume? And do they, specialize to say, like, even if the job description doesn't match, but because they're military, do we look at them and say, like, hold on a second, let's put some effort into getting this guy in and actually have him do public speaking on an interview and see maybe that's the right candidate, right? So SMART community, SMART AI community, we would like to invite more and more people and have them come in and give their input in front of an audience and discuss AI from different lenses and perspectives.
Yeah, sounds great. So just addressing something you said there, do we need to reconfigure ATSs to adapt to military speech? That's a whole different topic. All of the silly things that veterans tend to do on their resumes as they get out. I could talk about that for an entire podcast, and I won't get on that particular soapbox. I would say that I've heard the numbers are, what is it, like less than 7% of the US population are veterans, and that number is shrinking because the military is shrinking and the population of the country is growing. And that, that like baby boomers and World War II generation kind of all but gone. Sad to see them go, but what I would say is as a small minority, it's up to us to translate our speech to the corporate world. You have so many people getting out of the military, especially retirees, and they're just staying in the defense domain. So really, it's even smaller percentage than that. A lot of us go into entrepreneurship, so we're not out there bucking for corporate jobs. There is a very small percentage of the corporate world that are veterans. So it is most definitely incumbent upon us to translate our speech to the corporate world, and it's not going to happen the other way. Unless you're going into one of those contracting jobs. If you're going straight to, Booz Allen Hamilton or one of these very McDonnell Douglas, like a defense contractor that hires tons and tons of veterans. If you're going out there, I was the first veteran hired at Analect Omnicom, and that was a company with like 2,000 employees. First veteran in the door. Now I recruited more to come in, and Millspouse and some other kind of military friendly people. We kind of formed a little ERG, our own little cadre there. But it was on me to try and translate the things that appeal to the military, the language that we speak, to that corporate climate, and to provide a welcome mat for the people that came in after me to help them ease that transition. There's a whole science to it. It is not. I got to be careful when talking about. Well, there's a lot of veteran charities, a lot of veteran service things out there that will do free resumes for veterans. And that's why I don't cater my resume services to veterans, because they tend to expect things to be free. First of all, the thing is, free is often just a code word for worthless. So I'll say that there are definitely free resume services out there for veterans that are just hot garbage. And a lot of times I will get veterans that come pay me to fix the free resume that they got from some of those services. So I will say that. The second thing is, nothing's ever free. If it's of value, if it's free to you, it just means somebody else paid for it. A lot of these veteran service organizations have big donors with deep pockets. I do not. So even if you get a quality product resume from somebody, someone paid for that. So, if you can get that, awesome. But I will say that there is a very big organization out there, which was of benefit to me, so I don't trash them. But their resume services, a lot of people use their template. A lot of people get their resumes reviewed for them, and they say, it's great, it's fine, it's, kind of, and then they come to me and I look at their resume, I'm like, oh, brother, no, that ain't what right looks like. So that's what I will say is that there is an art and a science to translating military speak, especially professionally, to the corporate world. It is a difficult transition, and it's something where a lot of people will ask me, why should I pay for a resume? I can do it myself. I can learn how to do it on YouTube. Hey, I put YouTube content out there about how to do resumes. If you want to go sift through all of the great content on YouTube and try and figure out what's good and what's garbage, you're more than welcome to do that. I'll tell you, my content's good. Not everybody's content is good. But what I will say to people is, I don't do my own plumbing. I could go look up a YouTube video on how to unclog my sink, but instead I call a plumber to do that. I could go look up a YouTube video on how to change the oil pan gasket in my car. Instead, I drive it down to the mechanic, have them fix it, pay extra, pay them labor, and then I go do the things that I'm good at. Most people aren't good at writing resumes. Why? Because you only write your own. I write hundreds of resumes. I'm good at it. It's the kind of thing that if you only do it once every 3 years when you're looking for a new job, you're never going to get good at it. You just aren't. So it's one of those things that I have found it's worth it to get a specialist to do that. And that's how I advertise my services. I don't do the hard sell. I don't beat people over the head. If they want to move forward with a trash resume, I usually, like I said, I take a look. I tell them what I think. They say, thank you for your time. I say, okay, best of luck. Sometimes 6 months later, they come back and they agree to pay me to fix it for them when there's still a lot of work.
TheMeasuredData.com, right? That's the first step you got to do after you listen to this podcast, and say TheMeasuredData.com and check out Albert AI Bellamy, my friend.
And I do free full reviews, like written resume reviews. So I won't rewrite a resume for a veteran for free. That I do give a veteran discount, 25%. But a written review that I normally charge $40 for, I do those for veterans for free. So any veterans want to hit me up, I'll give you the discount code. I won't advertise it because then everybody will use it. But yeah, I do those for free. That is tremendously valuable. I've seen an incredibly high hit rate for people that just get my written resume review, and I'll give you the 5 worst things about your resume and how to fix them. I've seen a tremendous hit rate of people just taking that, whether it's paid or free, and getting a job within a month or 2 after taking my advice. Now, if I write it for you, then that's ironclad, and I've seen probably an 80% hit rate of people getting jobs with those resumes. But yeah, if you want the low ticket offer free for veterans, I've seen people get an incredible mileage out of just, me just giving it a scan and saying, fix these 5 things.
So Lucky, how do we end today's episode? Because I think episode 2 is coming. We have to pick a very specific topic and deep dive into it.
Yeah, this really hits home because this is always part of when, and we talked about it briefly. I teach, and so part of teaching is I work with veterans specifically, and it's always transitioning. So part of the transition is how do you bridge that gap? And you got to sit there and pass this paper everywhere you got to go to try to get or find a new opportunity. And so this, we work on this specifically, and I spend time trying to, help people get an understanding of, how important this is. So definitely thank you today. I'd love to be able to spend more time and talk, more about the topic. But I mean, you hit it around the head, and anyone listening is going to definitely gain a better understanding of what it takes or where the focus areas are if they are failing in this area, because everybody struggles. I'll be honest with you, and it's good to have somebody that can help you. So thank you again, Albert. Thank you. And
AyAyAyAi. Love it, man. I'm down with it.
Thank you, Al. Thank you for coming in. I know episode 2 is coming. We just gotta do this episode because this podcast is for SMART AI community. And the community that we advocate for is military veterans, but specifically for people that are transitioning from wherever they were before into the data science world, into the AI machine learning world. We even do this for business owners that are transitioning into thinking, how do I develop a business that's smart enough to adopt AI and AI as a service? So there's a whole lot to talk about. So episode 2, I'm looking forward to it. Really appreciate you joining us on a Sunday morning to talk about AyAyAyAi.
Love it. Yeah, great to be here.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.